Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel. So before we jump into today's topic, which is all about the different experiences I had writing 3 different books in 3 different genres, I really quickly wanted to kind of update you guys, give you a quick little life update about what's going on with me and let you know what's going to be going on with the channel over the next few months probably. So I am currently in the process of switching jobs. I was working at a grocery store as a cashier, but I turned in my 2 weeks notice like last week. So this coming Saturday is going to be my last day there. I'm very excited. It wasn't a bad job, you know, like I understand that some people might love working as a cashier at a grocery store, but personally for me, not my favorite thing to do. Dealing with the general public was an experience. And the new job that I've gotten is one that I'm really excited to try out. It is substitute teaching at the local high school. I am completely certified as a substitute teacher now. The FBI has my fingerprints, so I can't commit crimes anymore without automatically getting caught for it. So that's a shame, but you know, sometimes you gotta make a sacrifice. I'm sorry. But yeah, I am a certified substitute teacher. I'm going to be teaching at the high school, which is really exciting. A lot of people are like, oh, you don't like dealing with the general public, but you think high schoolers are going to be... No, I don't think high schoolers are going to be better, but I am much more patient with high schoolers because they're children, so you expect them to act like children. Whereas grown-ass adults acting like children at a grocery store, not my cup of tea, you know? Does that make sense? I think it does. So yeah, I'm very excited for this, not technically a career change. I feel like my career is my writing. Writing is my career. These are just day jobs, and I'm excited to try out a new day job. I think substitute teaching is going to be much more up my alley. I love teaching. I really enjoy high school age kids, honestly. I think they're great. I mean, I know some of them can be little shits, but like for the most part, I'm really excited to get to hang around them more. I'm really excited to get to test my hand. I mean, obviously I'm not really going to be like teaching. Likely I'll just be popping in a DVD, but just seeing what it's like to be in control. There is a hummingbird outside my window, aw. But just to see what it's like to be in control of a classroom, you know, get to know some of the students, just keep them in line. I'm interested. It's a new challenge. I like challenging myself. It's a challenge I'm excited for. And I think there's a couple of opportunities that are going to be opening up at the high school. So, you know, getting my foot in the door there to possibly be able to take advantage of those opportunities in the future. You know, I'm thinking ahead. I never used to plan ahead, but now I am planning ahead, and I'm really excited about what the future holds. So yeah, we'll see if I'm changing my tune in the next couple of weeks when I actually start getting called into substitute teacher. I may be like, I've made a grave error, but for now, it's something I'm excited about. But because I'm making this change in my day job, and I've kind of like briefly mentioned this in other videos, I think, where I said, you know, video scheduling might be off, I might have to try to figure out a new schedule for filming, but now I'm saying it for sure. For certain, I'm going to be going through a bumpy period on this channel where I'm trying to figure out when and how to film and get videos up. Last week I didn't even get a video up because I had to go to meetings to get paperwork done for the substitute teaching thing, so I already missed a video. I'm probably gonna miss more videos in the future. It's not for lack of trying though. That's what I want you to know. This isn't me being lazy or even having burnout. I'm still enjoying making these videos. It's just that with a career change, day job change, whatever, I'm gonna have to figure out how to make this fit into my new schedule. So I'm going to try my hardest to get a video up every week still, but you know, if it's late, you know, if it goes up on Thursday instead of Wednesday, or if it's just, it doesn't come one week, please don't abandon me. Please don't feel like I'm just being lazy and whatever. Like, I'm honestly trying my best. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. So now let's jump into the actual topic of today's video. So what I originally planned for this video to be was kind of a genre fiction versus realistic fiction, where I was comparing the two, seeing the similarities and differences between the process of writing each, because I've written one contemporary fantasy novel, one hard sci-fi novel, or high sci-fi, I don't know what you call it, and one contemporary romance novel, all young adult. And I was going to compare the similarities and differences, which I'm still kind of going to do, but I'm not going to do it in a, you know, genre versus realistic type of way. Because what I realized is that it's not that black and white. It's not like all genre fiction is one thing and all realistic fiction is another thing. You know, I was thinking ahead to books I plan to write in the future, and certain things that I was going to say about each genre, I was like, well, that doesn't really match up because that's not true of this future realistic fiction book I was going to write, or this future genre fiction book I was going to write, you know? So I decided to not do that, and I decided instead to just compare the 3 books that I have already written. And those books are, first, my contemporary fantasy novel, which is book 1 in the Caspian Chronicles series. Number 2 is my hard sci-fi novel, which I have been calling Space Pirates. And then the 3rd is my contemporary romance novel, which I have been calling Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel. And all of those are YA, so we're just specifically talking under the young adult umbrella today. And you know, now that I've written a few books, I thought it might be fun to compare what my process was like in each of them and what things felt similar, you know, what things I recognized in each book compared to each other, and what things felt totally new and different and strange when I was writing each book. I just thought that would be fun. Hopefully you guys think so too. So let's jump into it. So one of the first similarities I found between all of the books was the timeline of, you know, how long it took me to write the 0 draft of each book. Because it was within 2 to 3 months for all of them. For Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel, it only took me 2 months almost to the day. For the Caspian Chronicles, book 1, it took me about 3 months. I didn't track that one like I have the other 2, but it was about 3 months, I think. And then for Space Pirates, it was 3 months to the day. So that's kind of my timeline. That's kind of how long it seems to take me to write anything, really. Especially if I have an outline and like a really solid idea of the book in my head. That definitely makes it come out quicker. So I think that's going to continue to be a similarity for the rest of my books. I mean, obviously it's also a little bit of a difference because 3 months and 2 months are different, but I think the only reason for that disparity is just the amount of words in the 0 draft, because Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel was like less than 50,000 words, whereas Caspian Chronicles book 1 was almost exactly 50,000 words, and Space Pirates was like 64,000 words, so that's why Space Pirates took the most time, I think. It was because it was just a little bit more words, but yeah, that's basically the only thing that I can think of as like a difference, really. But that also leads me to the next similarity, which is the approximate word count for my 0 drafts. Apparently 50,000 words is kind of my sweet spot. Like, it was par on a miracle that I got to like 65,000 words in Space Pirates, and that's only because I was really working hard to add in those extra words to get in the imagery and stuff that I usually leave out in books. So that's the only reason why I got there, but even that's so close to 50,000, like it's not like it's close to 100,000, you know, so 50,000 really does seem to be my sweet spot when it comes to 0 drafting. And then moving on to differences. There's definitely a lot more differences than similarities, and that's because these were each individual projects, you know, they all had their unique aspects to them. But the first difference, the biggest difference, was the world building. Because let me tell you, world building for Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel, a breeze! Absolutely so easy. Hardly anything had to be done for the world building because I based the town that they live in and all of the locations they visit on like my hometown and places that I've visited. All of the houses were houses of like me and my friends, so it was I kind of cheated. It was easy and I didn't do anything special. It was just our world. Like, I didn't have to really create anything because it was all there for me. So that was so easy. It was so nice. It was so great. Whereas for the other two books, I had to do a lot of world building. But even then, the world building was so different because it was a contemporary fantasy novel and a hard sci-fi novel. Like, those are two way opposite genres. So for book one of the Caspian Chronicles, I had to create a magic system, a language for the magic system, politics for this magical world, reasons why the people who had magic had to, like, keep themselves a secret from the people who didn't have magic, and all of that jazz, you know, the ins and outs of the government, the ins and outs of the magical society, all of that I had to world build. But that was way different from having to world build an entire fucking solar system, because that's what I did for Space Pirates, is it takes place within this one solar system that's kind of like ours, but a little bit different, kind of like an alternate universe version of our solar system. And so that was crazy in its own way, because I still had to come up with, like, governments and religions and all that kind of stuff, so that was a little bit similar, but the execution was totally different, obviously, because they're two very different things. One takes place on our world, just, you know, with magical elements, whereas this takes place in a totally different world with totally different elements. But obviously I took inspiration from our world to create this new world for Space Pirates, but it was all definitely a different situation, and looking forward to projects I'm going to be writing in the future, I can guarantee the world building is going to be so different for every single one of those books too, which is fun because I think that's what adds the challenge for me, and like I've said before, I enjoy being challenged, so having to come up with these new worlds and new rules and whatever, that's what's really challenging for me, so that's what makes writing fun for me. However, that leads to another difference, which was the amount of fun I had drafting each book. Now, I will say I did have fun writing each book. It's not like one book was like a drag to write. That's not, I wouldn't have written it if that were the case. However, there were varying levels of fun to be had when drafting. And I'd say the least fun I had was with cute gay rom-com novel. Not because it's not a cute, fun book, but just because, again, I like to be challenged, and there was nothing really challenging about writing this book. It was all very simple stuff. It was all the stuff I'm already good at, which means it's going to be a good book because it's all stuff that I'm good at, all stuff that I feel confident in, such as dialogue. There's a lot of dialogue, especially because a lot of the book takes place with texting back and forth, so that's considered dialogue. It's a lot of dialogue, a lot of character interactions, just friends being goofy and playful and all that jazz. So that's all the easy stuff for me. So it was fun, but it was just simple. There wasn't much of a challenge there. Whereas I think I had the most fun writing... See, I was gonna say I had the most fun writing Space Pirates, but Caspian Chronicles is a book of my heart, so it's hard for me to say that I had more fun writing a different book, because, you know what, and I will say, I think I had the most fun writing Caspian Chronicles because it had that challenge element, but it also was a lot of what I'm comfortable and familiar with. You know, even though it had a lot of stuff that challenged me, as far as all of the world building and whatever, it also had a lot of dialogue, a lot of friends just being friends and goofing off, because it's a contemporary fantasy. You know, it wasn't a high fantasy. It was that sweet spot. It was the right in the middle. And I think that's the secret. That's my favorite thing to write, is that sweet spot right in the middle, kind of contemporary, kind of genre, the perfect mixture. That's why I think that was the most fun. But I definitely had a lot of fun writing Space Pirates as well. So I'd say that's second place. Because it was so challenging, but it didn't have all of that familiar stuff that I do love. I mean, it had dialogue, but not a whole lot of it was witty banter. Not a whole lot of it was friends goofing off and having fun because it was a more serious book. You know, it had more serious themes, so it wasn't fun in that aspect, but in the challenging aspect, it definitely was fun. So that's how I'd rank it. I'd rank it Caspian Chronicles was the most fun to write, then Space Pirates, then Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel. But I'd still say I had fun writing all of them because writing is fun for me. No matter what I'm really writing, it's fun. So another difference between the three books was tone. I would say Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel was very light and fluffy, like nothing really too serious about it. Even in the most serious of times, it wasn't like, you know, soul-crushing, punch to the gut kind of serious. It was all lighthearted and fun because it's a rom-com. Whereas Space Pirates was definitely the most serious in tone. It was a lot of action, fighting, plotting, all that kind of stuff, which was fun to tackle, but it was definitely different from the other two because I'd say, again, Caspian Chronicles was kind of right in the middle. It had its fun, fluffy moments, but it also had its more serious moments. And the act of tackling the tone in each of the books was different for me. I definitely had to read a lot in the genre that I was writing to be able to get that tone right, because I found, like, if I was reading a contemporary, cute, fun novel while I was trying to write Space Pirates, it was totally messing up the tone. So that was something different too. I had to be reading in the genre, or not even in the genre, just in the same type of toned book. You know, it has to be like a book with a serious tone if I'm going to be writing Space Pirates. It needs to be a book with a fun tone if I'm going to be writing Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel. Now that I'm just editing them, that's not really a thing, but when I'm doing the zero draft, I can't be crossing my tones. Oh, and another difference that I almost forgot about, but that was a pretty big one, was the characters that inhabited each of my books. Those characters were so different, like so wildly different. In Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel, all of the characters are very normal, average teenagers. They are, yeah, there's just nothing super special about them, but like that's the point. It's a story that can happen with anybody, and it's supposed to feel like it's just a group of friends, you know. It's not like anybody's spectacular, nobody's like the chosen one or anything. They're all just normal teenagers. In the Caspian Chronicles, however, the characters were a little bit quirkier because they weren't just normal teenagers, they were magical teenagers. And also, I don't know, just something about that book, it just, with the whimsical magic type of theme going on, I wanted the characters to be a little bit quirkier, a little bit more fun. So those characters were definitely different in that they were quirky. And then for Space Pirate Novel, that book, all of the characters were very serious and kind of badass. A little, I mean, it's a bunch of pirates, so they were like dirty, and they're adults. Even though the main character is a young adult, most of the other characters in this book were adults. And so all of the pirates were adults, and they acted a certain way that was very different from, they were kind of dirty, gross, mean, crude, angry, which was so very different from the other characters in my books. And then the main character specifically, she is different from any character I've ever written. She's very strong-willed, she's smart, she's capable, she's a little bit manipulative, a little bit revenge-driven, and so that was a very new experience for me. And then the last difference I can really think of that was, you know, really big, really stands out to me, was the writing. You know, the actual, like, language that I used, I guess is the best way to put it. Because in Cute Gay Rom-Com Novel, again, they were normal teenagers. The two main characters specifically were just, you know, your average teen characters. So I was trying to write with a teen voice, and so the language that I used was very, like, modern day teen voice. Like, I want it to take place the here and now, And, you know, if in the future it's considered a historical novel, cool, fine. I did want to date it a little bit. Like, I wanted it to be like, this is happening here and now. This is where we are. Whereas for the Caspian Chronicles, I kept it a little bit more vague. You know, I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more timeless. Obviously, it happens sometime in our age. Like, they're not walking around using, you know, box phones or something. Like, they're using cell phones, they have modern technology, but it could be taking place anywhere from like 2003 to 2025, you know, like it's a little bit more vague. And the voice of Cass is very different from the voice of the other two main characters in QK rom-com novel. Cass is the main character of Caspian Chronicles, obviously, but his voice is different because he's a different person. He has a much different experience with life than those two other boys who are, you know, they're just average. Nothing too spectacular or unspectacular has happened to them, whereas Cass has been through a lot already when we meet him. And then the voice of the main character in Space Pirate novel is way, way, way different because she speaks in a very formal way, because I based her specific home planet off of a more Victorian age type of England, kind of. So they speak with British accents, they speak in a proper way. She works for royalty, so she especially speaks in a prim and proper way. So everything about her language is completely different from the other two, because at least those two take place on our world, in our time. She takes place in the future but speaks like she's from the past, and it was an interesting dynamic, you know, having her talk about technology but in a way that like somebody from way back when kind of would talk about you know, it was a little bit of that juxtaposition that made her voice so unique. And I think her voice was the most unique voice I've ever written, partially because of her personality. She has such a strong personality, and that comes through so loud and clear in her voice, but also, again, because of where she was raised and how she was raised. So those were all of the similarities and differences between the three books that I have written so far. Clearly there was a lot more differences than similarities, and that's because each book is its own unique individual project, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But the one thing I will say is that even though there really was a lot more differences than similarities between these three projects, I feel like the more I write in these three genres, and even expanding into a few more genres that I want to write, the more similarities will come up. I feel like I have written three very different opposite books on purpose, you know, because I like I've said before, I like to challenge myself. I like to see what I can do. So writing three different books that are so completely opposite of each other was a challenge for me. But, you know, the more I write, the more my ideas might like overlap, and the more similarities and differences there might be between the projects. So maybe we'll revisit this video idea when I have more of a backlog, when I have more books to compare and maybe see, you know, are there more similarities between genre fiction than realistic fiction? Or maybe is there some unexpected crossover between genre fiction and realistic fiction? You know, is this one fantasy novel I write more like this mystery novel I've written than it is like the other fantasy novels I've written? You kind of see what I mean? So maybe I'll revisit then, but for now, this was just kind of to show how different my books are at this point, and how just because two books are considered genre fiction, that doesn't mean they're going to be anything the same. So yeah, it was just kind of fun to look at. Hopefully you thought it was fun too. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I am very close to 200 subscribers. So if you especially want to subscribe to me, now would be a good time to do it, because if I hit 200 subscribers, I'm going to do something fun. And by fun, I mean I'm going to horribly embarrass myself. I am going to traumatize myself for the rest of my life by showing you something that I never wanted anybody to see ever again. If that intrigues you, subscribe. Seriously, I'm not even bullshitting you. Like, what I'm gonna show you when we hit 200 subscribers is something nobody should ever have to see. But you're gonna laugh. You're gonna think it's funny. I'm just gonna be embarrassed that I did what I did. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.